impacts. They worked from different sectors trying to navigate this unprecedented journey. Various government programs were rolled out in a timely fashion to rise to meet the challenge of the moment. And for some of those sectors, the COVID pandemic was a boom as they saw new customers meet their products and services online. And for other sectors, in particular the small business sector, they are still struggling on our main streets. And so many of those community and emergency programs that were initiated by the government are still needed today. One of those lifelines that was proposed was a federal program called the Canada Emergency Business Account Loan, also known as CEBA. The essential and timely loan allowed small businesses to stay solvent, to pay their employees, to pay their landlords, and literally keep their doors open. And despite appearances now, because we have people roaming our streets or filling up some of the restaurants, we are not at the level of sales and revenues that we need to be, and we have not necessarily met and meet the pre-pandemic numbers, which means that small businesses in Ontario and Toronto are still struggling from COVID. They have not fully recovered. Ontario lockdowns hit small businesses on main streets harder than most other businesses, even as communities rally around them to support them and to save our main streets. I know that merchants were really grateful for the customers who dine locally and shop locally, but they are not there back to profitability. And certainly coming out of the COVID pandemic, they have garnered significant now personal debt. We are still in the middle of a cost of living crisis here in Ontario, and everyday Ontarians are now tightening their belts. They have less discretionary income than they had even during the time of the pandemic. And this is when our small businesses still need our support. On September the 14th, the federal government, after a long wait, made an announcement where they announced the extension of the CEBA loan. They allowed those small businesses to repay their loans by up to 1 year. That was a good outcome. We're grateful for that. But what the Liberal government did was they provided an only 18-day extension to the forgivable portion of the $20,000 loan. So they literally extended that deadline from December 31st, the end of this year, to January 18. That is not satisfactory, and to be quite honest, for most of the small businesses who are affected by CEBA, it's actually not helpful. And a recent survey has shown that 4 out of those 5 businesses would all agree that that 18-day extension is not going to help them. This announcement has become an enormous letdown and has led to a lot of confusion in the small business community. The federal government, who actually garnered a lot of goodwill by rolling out these programs in a timely fashion, is now in trouble because they are confusing and polluting the waters. And what we know is that small businesses need a full extension of their CEBA loans by the full year, including the forgivable portion of $20,000. There cannot be an 18-day extension. That's simply not good enough. And some of these small businesses that are continuing to struggle, the majority of them, I should say, are in Ontario. They are, in case of the small business numbers that we see in terms of who actually took out a CEBA loan, over 360,000 of them are Ontario small businesses. And out of those CEBA loans, 40,000 of them federally are sitting right here, which means that although this is a federal problem, this will very quickly become an Ontario and Toronto problem when our small businesses struggle to meet their financial obligations. I was once a small business owner before I became an elected official. I owned a coffee shop on Church Street and an art gallery in the Queen West District. That was in the best of times without having to face a global pandemic, and it was hard then. Things have become even harder for small business owners, which is why we are here to lend some support to the small business community who is asking for a partner in Ottawa to come back to the table and to work with them to ensure that that extension is fair, it's reasonable, and also that it meets, again, the moment that we are here to meet. I want to be able to say a couple of quick things. With small business in terms of our economy, we need those small businesses to stay afloat. Right now, 80% of small businesses are actually in Ontario with small to medium-sized businesses who represent this section of the economy. And they are employers. Over 2.9 million Ontarians are employed by small businesses, and a magnificent number of them are here right in the GTHA. The Premier loves to say that the best social program is a job. But as jobs disappear, if businesses are forced to shutter their doors, this is going to create additional burdens on our social assistant roles. And we cannot allow that to happen, especially as people are forced to live below the poverty line with Ontario Works. It's time for the Premier to use his political currency and to make sure that when he speaks to the Prime Minister, that he also raises this issue for small business owners. It's important that he speaks up for small business owners when he's dealing with Ottawa, just as I have now recently written to the Prime Minister to express my displeasure and to extend my hand in partnership to work with him to salvage this program for our small business community. I want to be able to introduce to you now people who are going to be coming to the podium. These individuals are all respected business leaders. They are leaders from the CFIB, which is the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Julie Kwinski. I also will introduce John Carew from the Toronto Association of Business Improvement Areas, as well as two affected local Toronto Centre business owners and operators, Effie Ziamouranis, who is the owner of Paddington Pumps, one of our fine eating establishments located right here in the historic St. Lawrence building. She's going to be sharing her story with us very shortly, as well as Graham Nachu, who is the operations director of the Old Spaghetti Factory, one of the oldest, most iconic restaurants here in the Esplanade. And he's also here representing the St. Lawrence Market BIA. And I look forward to welcoming Julie to the podium first. Thank you.
Julie Kwinski, Juliekwycinski, and I am the Director of Provincial Affairs for Ontario at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Good afternoon. First and foremost, I need to thank MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam for organizing this news conference to highlight a very important issue to Ontario small businesses. And I have to also say that Kristyn is the most engaged MPP on this issue of all MPPs at Queen's Park. I don't want to keep my remarks too long because I think it's more important for you to hear from actual small business owners that operate small businesses on the front lines of our streets of Toronto and elsewhere in Ontario and across the country. What I can say is this. What are we asking for? It's a simple ask of the federal government and Ottawa, and that is to extend the forgivable deadline, forgivable being the operative word, of the CEBA loan until the end of 2024. 87% of our members told us that they need to have this deadline extended. And further, as Kristyn pointed out, there are so many businesses that got these loans in Ontario, over 360,000, that it is an Ontario issue. And we urge the Ontario government and all MPPs to echo our ask of the federal government, and again I'll repeat it because it's simple and it's important, extend the forgivable deadline for the CEBA loan until the end of 2024. It's a simple ask. It will make the difference to so many small businesses. Just to give you a perspective, what's happening in Ontario economically right now? We can tell you from CFIB survey data that the average COVID debt for an Ontario small business is a whopping $134,000. 61% of Ontario small businesses are still carrying pandemic-related debt, and a whopping 52% are at less than normal revenues. So you can see with this economic climate that it's a challenging time to ask a business to fork out all of the money to pay for their CEBA loan to save the forgivable portion. And also, unfortunately, very unfortunately, this won't be news to anyone around this venue here today, small business confidence levels are very, very low. In fact, in Ontario, small business confidence levels for the 3-month and 12-month terms are the lowest in all of Canada. We are heading into potentially rocky economic times, and that's why it's so important to act on this simple ask. It's very, very, very important. And again, I think something needs to be pointed out here, a very, very important point. These are COVID debts only. We're not talking about other debts. This is COVID-related debt. These businesses didn't ask for this debt. They didn't ask for a pandemic. Governments were forced to close them. There's on again, off again, yo-yoing of openings and closures was very stressful and financially taxing on small businesses. These are COVID debts. They're only asking the government that close them and open them time and time again to make sure that they can survive in the months ahead. And as Kristyn so astutely pointed out, 18 days to save the forgivable deadline is not nearly enough. I have a message for Ottawa. We'll be at the table with you. My Ottawa colleagues will be there to discuss this with you. We've already had numerous meetings in Ottawa. But again, please extend the forgivable deadline for the CEBA loan until the end of 2024. And anyone that's listening from Ontario, whether it's Ontario government, MPPs, please echo our ask. Do it publicly, social media, hold press conferences like Kristyn is doing today. Whatever you can do, it makes a difference. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Excuse me. My name is John Carew. John with an H. Carew is spelled Kilo India Romeo Uniform. I'm the Executive Director of the Toronto Association of BIAs, representing Toronto's 84 BIAs with a membership of some 90,000 businesses and property owners. I was very pleased to receive the call to participate in this event because it is something that is very near and dear and is going to be a difference maker to our members across the city. I'm not going to share numbers. I'm not going to share any of the stuff that the CFIB has very capably done. The reality is the message that I'm delivering is from those small businesses, not only across the 84 BIAs in Toronto, but also from our friends across the province, from OBIA, all the BIAs across the province, and we have a network of BIAs across the country. This is not a Toronto-specific issue. This spans the province and the country. The reality is 400 days of lockdowns in Toronto specifically. Nobody could have foreseen the pandemic coming. We're very grateful for the assistance that we received from all three levels of government as we were challenged through that period. But the most important point is nobody really understood, nor do they understand to this day, the length of the recovery that will have to take place for us to be anywhere near sustainable and support the economic and social well-being of the neighborhoods that local businesses represent. To that end, I echo the asks that were up there, extend the opportunity to December 31st, 2024, including the up to 33% forgivable portion of those loans, or consider a repayment schedule to get to the final number over the next couple of years where there is a cash flow coming back in to the federal government, as we understand that they too are strapped for cash. But at the end of the day, we're very cooperative. We'd love to be at the table rather than on the menu when the point comes in making these final decisions. And the reality is, throughout the pandemic, we heard we're all in this together. We worked with those words, we worked with those monikers, and we continue to operate businesses as best we could. The time has come to remind our friends at the federal level that we are in this all together. To that end, I hope that there is some reconsideration and that this decision is not a penny wise but a pound foolish initiative. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Effie Diamaranis, E-F-F-I-E, T as in Thomas, Z-I-A-M-O-U-R-A-N-I-S as in Sam. That's the mouthful. I'm the owner of Paddington's here at the St. Lawrence Market. I just want to share a little bit about my experience. We thank the government a great deal for their help. It's been a difficult time. Recovery is not instant. We want to be able to continue serving our community, employing people from our community, and to be able to repay our debt. We've incurred a lot of debt over this. Again, as my other colleagues mentioned, not debt we asked for. We were forced to take on in order to stay in business. I just want to ask the federal government to give us the same consideration that we gave when we all came to work every day during a pandemic, leaving our families at home and putting ourselves at risk. To make sure that everybody stayed safe and still had everything they needed. I think that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Hi, it's Graham Nachu. Graham, Graham, last name Nachu, Hnatiw. I'm here today as a local business owner and on the board of the St. Lawrence Market BAA to express our strong support for extending the CEBA forgivable deadline to the end of 2024. The St. Lawrence Market BIA area is home to hundreds of small businesses, many of which took out CEBA loans during the pandemic. These loans were a lifeline to many of our businesses, and they helped to keep their doors open and their employees on the payroll. However, many of our businesses are still struggling to recover from the pandemic. Some businesses are still operating at reduced capacity, while others are facing supply chain disruptions and rising costs. The recent announcement of a year-long CEBA extension was a welcome relief, but it left many small businesses under the impression that they have until the end of 2024 to repay their loan in order to keep the forgivable portion. This interpretation was widely shared by MPs and in media reports. Unfortunately, the forgivable extension was actually 18 days to January 18, 2024. This is deeply concerning, as it means that many small businesses have just a couple of months to take action before they see their debt rise by 50%. The reality is that the government is telling businesses that can't repay the loan in the next 100 days to take on another loan from a bank at a much higher interest rate and an overall payment in order to secure the forgivable portion. This is not realistic or fair. We're calling on the government to extend the forgivable deadline to the end of 2024. That would give small businesses the time to repay their loans and to continue to recover from the pandemic. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. They create jobs and support our communities. The St. Lawrence Market is a vibrant and diverse community, and our small businesses are the heart of it. We cannot afford to let them down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you to all our speakers. As you can tell, as we stand in the historic St. Lawrence Market, you feel the hustle and bustle around you, but what you are seeing past the veneer is a story of still struggle. And so the COVID pandemic and the struggle is still here. We still need those COVID-related financial support programs to support our small businesses, especially this month. This month is where the federal government can make a good news story even better. CEBA could be actually extended for the forgivable portion for this month. And this month is important because it's Small Business Month. So to everyone who's watching, please go out and support your small businesses. Talk to your MPs. Let them know how you want to support your small businesses by letting them know that the government can take action and correct this particular extension problem. And that would be entirely supported and, of course, greatly appreciated by everyone who's here. Thank